What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Primetime Sports Podcast, hosted by Joey Malari. So in this episode, we're going to give a preview of tonight's opening round of the Hockey's Tournament. I'll preview the entire tournament, give predictions for each game. But before doing so, I want to give a breakdown of how each team has played this season. So we'll start off with the number one seed, Boston College. They're 23-1 overall, 20 wins, 3 losses, and a tie in the Hockey East. 61 points in the Hockey East this season. And then overall record-wise, so including the Hockey East and their out-of-conference games, 28-5-1 overall. BC has been dominant all season long, winning 14 of their last 15 games heading into the tournament. Their only loss over that stretch was to BU in the Beanpot. They've just been a fun team to watch all season long. Credit to Greg Brown, though, and the coaching staff. It's easy to get complacent and not show up after winning so many games in a row. You could take some teams lightly, but BC hasn't done that. They've just been locked in all year long. Cutter Gauthier has been great. 32 goals, 20 assists, 52 points. Likely the front runner right now for the Hobie Baker Award, but it's definitely going to be close. You have Gauthier, you have Mackin Celebrini of BU. I think Ryan Leonard of BC is right there as well. You also have Will Smith of BC. There's a lot of guys that are going to be in that conversation of who's going to end up winning it. It's going to be a fun race to watch. Gauthier is probably the favorite right now, but there's some guys that are in the conversation, like I said, Celebrini being one of them, Ryan Leonard, Will Smith, both of those guys are teammates of Gauthier. And then another guy is Jack Devine of Denver. He's got 51 points on the season. He's had a great year, 25 goals, 26 assists for the junior forward there. So it's going to be a close race, but I think it ends up being Gauthier at the end of the day. He's the front runner for a reason, but Ryan Leonard's a guy to watch out for, though. 25 goals, 23 assists, 48 points on the season. He's only a freshman, just like Celebrini. So there's a lot of young guys making their mark on college hockey at a young age, Celebrini being one of them, only a freshman. Same thing goes there for Ryan Leonard and Will Smith. And then Gauthier's only a sophomore. So obviously a lot of the young guys in college hockey are putting up great numbers this season. Next up, we have the number 2 seed, and that's BU, who is 18-4-2 overall in the Hockey East, 57 points in the Hockey East in the regular season. And then overall on the season, 24-8-2 was their record. Their last loss outside of a shootout loss was an overtime loss to Northeastern in the Beanpot Finals on February 12th. That's the last time they lost a game outside of a shootout loss. They haven't lost a game in regulation since January 27th to BC. This team is special. BU is a really good team. And Mackin Celebrini, a guy I've already mentioned, has just put up video game numbers this season for BU. 29 goals, 25 assists, 54 points for the freshman. Likely the number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft. He checks every box you need from a guy to be the first overall pick. So it's not going to be any surprise when he does go number 1 overall. So that's my breakdown of BU. Next up, we have number 3, Maine. They were 14-9-1 in the Hockey East with 44 points this season in the conference. Quite a year for the Black Bears, though. A team that I was higher on than most heading into the season. They've been consistent this year, 22-10-2 overall on the season, 22 wins, 10 losses, and 2 ties. I had them at 5th in my predictions before the season began. I was a big fan of Lyndon Breen. I was a big fan of Victor Osman, their goalie. This team is definitely capable of making a run in not only the Hockey East tournament, but I also think in the Frozen Four tournament. I'm very high on Maine, and I'm excited to see what they do in the Hockey East tournament. Next up, we have number 4, Providence. They were 11-9-4 in the Hockey East this season. 11 wins, 9 losses, and 4 ties. I thought they were going to regress this year, but they were just as competitive this year as they were in years before. Impressive year all around for them. 18-12-4 overall. Not many big goal scorers on the team. Just 11 goals for their leader, and that was Chase Yoder. So they're not putting up crazy numbers with just one player where one guy has 25 goals. They're kind of just spreading it around throughout the whole team, getting scoring from everywhere, and it's honestly worked. 11-9-4 in the Hockey East this season, and a lot of people expect them to take a step back this year, but that wasn't the case. Their goalie, though, Philip Svedback, has had a very good season, 4 shutouts this season, which is tied for 3rd most in college hockey. Then at number 5, we have UMass Amherst. They were 12-10-2 in the Hockey East this season, 12 wins, 10 losses, and 2 ties. Honestly, a huge bounce-back year for them after a down season last year. This season overall, 19-12-3 was their record. Ryan Ufko is still their leader, a junior defenseman who has had a great season offensively, 9 goals, 16 assists, 25 points. A good player with a lot of experience. They're definitely a team to watch out for in this tournament. At number 6, we have UNH. They were 12-11-1 in the Hockey East this season, 19-4-1 overall. A big step forward for the Wildcats this season after being an afterthought in the Hockey East for nearly a decade. A huge step up this season. This was their first year finishing above 8th in the Hockey East since the 2013-2014 season. And this is also their first season with an over 500 record in the Hockey East since that same year, 2013-2014 season. So very impressive year for them. They were either 10th or worse in the Hockey East in 5 of the last 8 years. They finished either 10th or worse, so either 10th or last place in the Hockey East in 5 of the last 8 years heading into this season. So a very impressive year for Michael Souza and the Wildcats. Souza, their head coach, has these guys playing with a chip in their shoulder every game. It doesn't matter who they're playing against, whether it's BC, BU. They don't care who they're playing against. They play hard no matter what the score is. Ryan Carney is a guy to watch out for in this tournament. He led the Wildcats in goals and points this season, 14 goals and 31 points in the year. Also had 17 assists as well. But I think Siler Clerk is the best player on this team overall. 10 goals, 18 assists, 28 points. Only a sophomore and he can score. He's definitely got to watch out for as well. A flashy player with a lot of talent. UNH does play with a chip on their shoulder, like I said. They were 2-1 on the season against Maine. They did sweep Maine the last time they matched up in the regular season. And I like Maine and UNH a lot. Two teams that I'm very high on. I think they can win any given night against any team just because of their hustle and how they play. But I'm really happy to see UNH really turn their program around this season. They're an underrated team to watch out for in this tournament. And I definitely say to pay attention to them if they were to make it into the Frozen Four tournament. But they likely need to at least make the Hockey East tournament finals and probably win it. Obviously, that's a guarantee to get into the tournament. That's an automatic bid into the Frozen Four tournament if you win your conference tournament. So if they were to do that, that would obviously be great. But I think if they lose in the conference finals, I think they would still have a chance at making it in. At number 7, we have Northeastern, 9-14-1 in the Hockey East this season, 16-15-3 overall, 16 wins, 15 losses, and 3 ties on the year. I knew this would be a bridge year for Northeastern. I figured it'd be a bridge year for 2 reasons. They lost a lot of talent heading into the season. Devin Levi leaving, that's a big loss, the best goalie in college hockey. Aiden McDonough leaving, one of the best scorers in college hockey during his college career, left. So when you add in those 2 players, your best goal scorer and your best goalie leaving, you're losing a lot on both ends, offense and defense. And then you're also losing a lot of guys in the portal. Riley Hughes going to Ohio State, Jack Hughes going to BU, Sam Colangelo going to Western Michigan. They lost a lot of talent in the portal. I actually had Northeastern at 7th in my preseason poll for the College Hockey News website, and that's where they ended up finishing in the Hockey East in the regular season. With that being said, though, they have shown up against a lot of big teams this season. They're the only team to beat BC, to beat BU, and beat Maine this year. That's very impressive. And they also won the Bean Pot for the 5th time in the last 6 tournaments. So they do have what it takes to beat any team in the country. It's just a question of whether or not they're going to show up and be able to do so. But any given night, they do have the opportunity and the ability to win against anyone. And it's just because they don't really fear anybody when they play, whether they're playing against BC or BU. They just play fearless at the end of the day. And that's what you need. You need just to play fearless. Obviously, BC, BU, 2 big names in college hockey this season. But Northeastern has beat both of them, and they've beaten Maine as well. So they do have what it takes to make a run in this tournament. It's just a question of whether or not they're going to show up. Is Northeastern going to show up and play their brand of hockey? Which their brand of hockey this season is not lighting it up on shots on goal like they did in years past. It's playing good defense, and then when they do get offensive opportunities, taking advantage and getting quality opportunities. It's all about quality shots on goal. But they have beaten a lot of good teams this season. So I've already mentioned BC, BU, and Maine. They tied with Quinnipiac earlier this season, 2-2. They lost 2-1 to UMass twice this year, and also had another close loss in one of the games against Providence, 2-1 in overtime. And they even tied Providence last week, 3-3 in regulation, lost that one in a shootout, but they do have what it takes to beat any team in this tournament. Alex Campbell's been an absolute beast this season. I was talking about Northeastern losing a lot of guys in the portal. This is a guy Northeastern got in the portal. 21 goals, 16 assists, 37 points. His 21 goals is 9th best in college hockey. 21 goals on the season. Quite a pickup in the portal by Jerry Keefe. And then Jack Williams is a guy that's really surprised this season. One of the best scorers in college hockey since Thanksgiving. Overall on the year, 17 goals, 19 assists, 36 points. He has been great in his second year for the Huskies. Moving on now to the number 8 seed, UConn. They finished top 5 in the Hockey East 4 years in a row heading into this one. This year, though, they finished just 8th. Even though they were great in years past the last 4 years, they did have a drop-off this season. 9-14-1 record in the Hockey East. 9 wins, 14 losses, and a tie. They were 14-18-2 overall this year. Matthew Wood, only a sophomore, but does play like a veteran out there. 13 goals, 11 assists, 24 points. He was taken 15th overall in the NHL draft of 2023 by Nashville. He's a guy to keep your eye on for UConn. As for the number 9 seed, it's the Vermont Catamounts, a team that has been an afterthought in the Hockey East in years past. But this year, even though they're still in the bottom of the Hockey East, they do play chippy. And that's why I think they're capable of making a run, at least winning a game or 2 in this tournament. They were 13-18-3 overall this season, 7-14-3 in the Hockey East. Their 13 wins, though, this year is their most in a single season since the 2016-2017 season. So that's obviously a plus. They're at least figuring things out and taking a step up. Obviously, it's not a huge step up considering how poor they played over the last couple of years. 13 wins is at least an accomplishment. They're getting closer towards 500 and competing in the Hockey East. In my College Hockey News poll before the season began, I had them at 9th in the Hockey East. That's where they end up finishing, 9th. And a guy to watch out for in this team is Chris Theodore, former AIC hockey player, is third in goals for the Cats and also third in points with 8 goals and 14 points on the season. They also did pick up a Northeastern transfer as well, veteran D-man Jeremy Bushler, who has 6 goals, 11 assists, and 17 points on the year. That's honestly very surprising. He only had 4 goals in 4 seasons at Northeastern, only 1 each year, but he has 6 goals this season, and also has 11 assists. That's a career high for him in a single season as well. So it's obviously great to see Bushler developing his offense. That's obviously a big step up for him offensively. 6 goals is more than he had in any of his 4 years at Northeastern combined. But obviously, maybe a change in scenery and obviously taking more shots on goal obviously could be the difference maker there for him. But I will be rooting for Vermont. Hopefully they win a game or 2 in the tournament. Next up, we have the number 10 seed, and that's Merrimack. 13-20-1 overall this season. 6-17-1 in the Hockey East. A heavy regression for them this season. But they did lose some talent heading into this year. But they did also have some guys coming back. Even though they had a veteran team the last couple seasons, they did have some pieces coming back this year. Hugo Olas, their goalie, Alex Jeffries, Matt Capone, 2 of their better offensive players, all were back this season, but they still really struggled. They were 2nd in the Hockey East last year. They were 4th in the Hockey East 2 years ago. But now they're right back to where they were before the last 2 seasons, finishing in the bottom 3 of the Hockey East. And an issue for them is defense. They're giving up 3.2 goals against per game. And that's something that they were great at last year, was limiting shots on goal by their opponent and making plays defensively, but that's not the case this year. They are struggling in that aspect of the game. At number 11, we have UMass Lowell, dead last in the Hockey East, 4-17-3 in the Hockey East this season, 8-23-4 overall, 8 wins, 23 losses, and 4 ties. This is their first time finishing dead last in the Hockey East since the 2010-2011 season. They were well over 500 in 5 straight years before the season began. And they also did lose a lot of talent, so it's not like they were bringing back all of their pieces from the last couple years, but nobody expected them to fall off this bad and finish dead last in the Hockey East. So now I'm going to give some predictions for the opening round in the whole entire tournament. We'll start off with the opening round games, which starts tonight, as I said. We have number 9 Vermont at number 8 UConn. Give me Vermont in this game 3-2. I know I'll probably be off with most of these predictions, but I figured why not have a score prediction for each game to make it more fun. I tend to think most games are going to be closer than they actually are. So a lot of my predictions here are probably going to be close games. That might not be the case. And as I said, I might be off with a lot of these, but I figured why not have some predictions for fun. So I'll go UVM over UConn 3-2. As I said, UVM's a team that plays with a chip on their shoulder. They do play hard, did take a step up this season. And UConn is struggling this year overall, even though UConn is the home team in this one. I'm going to pick Vermont since I like them more. Going to pick them to win this one 3-2. Next up, we have number 11 UMass Lowell at number 6 UNH. I think UNH dominates this one and wins 4-1. Then in the last game, we have number 10 Merrimack at number 7 Northeastern. I'm going to say the Huskies win this one 3-1. Who knows if this is the last game at the historic Matthews Arena, so I think Northeastern is going to play with the chip on their shoulders, and I think they're going to play hard. I think they win this one 3-1. Next up, now we have the quarterfinals, which is Saturday. We have number 5 UMass Amherst at number 4 Providence. I think UMass Amherst wins this one 4-3 in overtime. I expect it to be a close and chippy game. Then we have BC playing the lowest remaining seed, which in my predictions here would be the University of Vermont. So it would be number 9 UVM at number 1 BC. BC did sweep them at Conti not too long ago, just a few weeks ago now, 7-1 and 4-2. Both of those games being wins for the Eagles. But the 4-2 game was a chippy one in an intense game. So I bet UVM would like to get payback on the Eagles. But I do think BC wins this one 3-1. So then the highest remaining seed would go and play at Maine. So that would be UNH, the number 6 seed at number 3 Maine. UNH is capable of going on a run and win the Hockey East tournament. I truly believe they do have what it takes to go out and make a crazy run. They did play close with BC 2 times this year. They did lose all 3 games they played against BC, but 2 of those 3 games were close. They were 1-2 against BU. Anyone can win this tournament since it's a single elimination tournament. It's just about getting hot at the right time and putting things together. But at the end of the day, it's all about getting hot at the right time and making a run, getting some momentum, and then going from there. Originally, I had Maine winning this game and winning it all, honestly. That was my prediction in January. So I was going to stay with them, winning this game, then winning it all. My prediction at one point was Maine over BC. But I ended up changing my prediction in this game. So that obviously changes my predictions for the finals. I'm going to roll with UNH winning this one. I think they're capable of going on a run. And like I said, anyone can win the tournament. It is a single elimination tournament, so anybody can win. And even though I had Maine originally winning, my gut's telling me to go with UNH. So I'm going to roll with the Wildcats winning this one 3-2. It's hard to say that because Maine does have a good team, but there are some worries with them. Victor Osman, the goalie, has taken a step back this season. Had a great year last year, but an .894 save percentage this year, 2.78 goals against. Not as good of a season this year as he had last year, but they have played good against some good teams. They played BC in 2 close games this year, winning one of those games and then losing in a shootout, but it was a tie technically. So they were 1-0-1 against BC, which is pretty good this year. They beat BC 4-2 in one of the games and then 2-2 in the other game, and they outshot BC in both of those games. 33-28 in the tie game and then 38-28 in the win for Maine. They outshot BC by 5 shots in 10 shots, and that doesn't happen very often. So they do have what it takes to potentially make a run here in the Hockey East. But they don't need to win this game in order to make it into the tournament. They're going to be in the Frozen Four tournament no matter what. So that's why I think, at the end of the day, UNH, a team that needs this right now. Right now, they're around 17, I believe, or 18 in the pairwise rankings. They need this win in order to move up in the pairwise rankings and then potentially have a chance to make the Frozen Four tournament. They do need this win, so I think they're going to play hard, and that's why I'm going to roll with them winning this game. But like I said, Maine's not an easy team to pick against. Because like I said, I had them going to the finals and even winning it in my predictions before I made this episode. But for some reason, while I'm recording this, I just decided to change it up and go with UNH. Because I just have a feeling. UNH has played hard against some good teams this year. 1-2 versus BU, 0-3 versus BC, which was tough, but 1-1 versus UMass, and then 2-2 versus Maine. They're a streaky team. That's the issue with Maine as well. They're both streaky teams, but I like UNH here. Lastly, that would leave number 7 Northeastern to go and play number 2 BU at Agganis Arena. Northeastern has proven they can beat anyone any given night, as they've beaten top 10 teams all season long. BU twice, beat BC once, beat UMaine once. They do have what it takes to go out there and win against one of the best teams in the country, which BU right now is the number 2 team in the country. And for good reason. I mean, they've been a great team all year long. But Northeastern has beaten them 2 times. One thing I worry about with Northeastern, though, is their consistency. They got 2-1 against BU. All 3 games actually ended in a very close game, 4-3 in overtime. So Northeastern does know what it takes to beat BU. Limiting turnovers, limiting breakaways, not giving up as many penalties, and taking advantage of scoring opportunities, which scoring opportunities aren't going to come easy. They're going to lose the shots on goal. It's about taking advantage of those scoring opportunities and making it quality shots on goal. And when you get a power play, try to take advantage. And at the end of the day, Northeastern has had the formula that's worked against BU. And it's all those things I just said right there. And they also play with a chip on their shoulder and don't fear BU at all. Northeastern knows at the end of the day, anybody can win any given night. And that's a testament to Jerry Keefe as a coach. He keeps those guys locked in, even if they're playing against BU in the Beanpot Finals, or they're playing against UMaine on the road. He keeps those guys locked in and keeps them focused. And no matter who the opponent is, and no matter what their record is and their ranking is heading into the game, that doesn't matter at the end of the day. Anybody can win any given day. So at first, in my predictions, I had BU winning this game here 3-2. But I changed my mind last minute. Just like in the last game, UNH versus UMaine, I flip-flopped and went UNH over Maine. I'm going to flip-flop here as well. And I truly believe Northeastern can win this game and beat BU again. And I figured, why not? I'm going to take Northeastern beating BU here 3-2 and having a trip to the TD Garden on March 22nd. So that leads me to the semifinals. March 22nd at the TD Garden. So the lowest remaining seed would play the highest remaining seed. So right now that would be, in my predictions, number 7 Northeastern versus number 1 BC. Obviously, depending on who wins each round, all of this would change depending on who the lowest remaining seed is and the highest remaining seed and all that in between. So these predictions might not obviously work out. Probably won't be, as I said. I mean, it's really hard to predict these things. But in my predictions here, it would be number 7 Northeastern versus number 1 BC in the semifinals. Northeastern was 1-1 versus BC in the regular season. They beat BC 5-3 at Conte Forum, then lost to the Eagles 3-1 at Matthews Arena. They did have a 1-0 lead in that Matthews game that they did lose. So they had a lead in both games, which BC doesn't trail in many games, as you can tell by their record. I mean, they don't lose many games. They don't trail in many games either. And as I've said, though, Northeastern is capable of beating anyone. It's a single elimination tournament, so you just have to beat teams once. But I do think BC wins this one 3-2 in a close game. It's tough to say, but Northeastern winning 2 games here and getting all the way to the semifinals in a year that was a down year would be a great run in the Hockey East Tournament. So that leads me to my last matchup here in the semifinals. Number 5, UMass Amherst versus number 6, UNH. UNH on the season has found a way to beat some good teams like I've mentioned already. They've beaten Maine twice. They did lose 2 times, but they beat Maine the last 2 times they played them. They're 5-3 in their last 8 games, with 2 of those losses coming against BC, one of them being a 1-0 loss, and then the other loss being a 3-2 loss to UMass Amherst. So they're getting hot at the right time. And I do think they can beat UMass here 3-2. As I said, UNH needs these wins here, and they need to make it somewhat of a run in the Hockey East Tournament in order to get their pairwise rankings up to be an at-large bid for the Frozen Four tournament. Right now, they're on the border. They're at 17 or 18, I believe, last time I checked. So they need to win at least a couple games, and if they win, let's say 3 games, they get to the finals, that would probably be enough for them to get in as a lock. But at the end of the day, you never know. It always depends on the pairwise rankings. So you can't really say it's a lock, I guess, at the end of the day. But it would give them a really good chance to make it in if they were to get to the finals. And I think they win this game 3-2. They split the season series with UMass, both of those games being one-goal games, so it's going to be a close one, but I'm going to roll with UNH winning this one 3-2. So now that leads me to the finals. TD Garden, March 23rd, so just the day after the semifinals. It would be number 1 BC versus number 6 UNH. Right now, as I said, UNH is outside the top 16, so they would really need at least a few wins in the Hockey's tournament. UNH has taken a really big step up this season. They'd love to see themselves in the Frozen Four tournament. I'm sure that would be a great thing for the program. And honestly, for some reason, I think they're going to win the tournament. Before I recorded this episode, I had Maine beating them in the quarterfinals, but for some reason, I flip-flopped that just because I think UNH can make a run. They're getting hot at the right time. 5-3 in the last 8 games. They had 3 losses, 2 of them being to BC, 1 of them being a close loss to UMass Amherst. I'm going to roll with UNH winning this one over BC. A final score of 4-3, let's say. Close game, maybe even overtime game. I do think UNH, though, is going to use those first few wins, use that as momentum, and then go and make a run. Usually those teams that play that first round game have some momentum after winning that first game in the opening round. When you play in the opening round, you win that first game, you have some momentum, and then the team you're going up against in the second round was waiting for the first round to end. They might not be as sharp, and they might be a little rusty. So with UNH playing in the opening round, I think that can play to their advantage. So I think they end up winning this game, as I said, 4-3, an overtime win over BC in the Hockey East Tournament Finals. So now to end the episode, I'm going to switch over and talk about BC Hoops for a minute. They had a big win in their first round game of the ACC Tournament. Just like I just said, with UNH potentially winning their first round game against UConn and then using that to go on a run, I think the same goes for BC in the ACC Tournament. They won their game yesterday against Miami, their third win against Miami this season, actually. Miami lost 10 straight games to close the season. Just a really epic collapse considering they were doing well before that 10-game stretch. But BC had a big win yesterday, their most complete win of the season. They looked good in the glass, played some good defense. They shot the ball well as well. An issue for them was still turnovers, but at the end of the day, poor shooting from Miami did help BC get that win. So even regardless of BC's turnovers, they did still find a way to win that game, 81-65. 3 wins against Miami on the season. Quinton Post had a great game, 30 points and 13 rebounds. He had the first 30-point double-double in the ACC tournament since Zion Williamson. So that's obviously a good company to be in there. Happy to see QP balling on a big stage while scouts are watching. It's good to be putting up those numbers on the biggest stage. And obviously a lot of people will be watching the ACC tournament. It's a competitive conference, obviously. So it's good to see him put up those big numbers and obviously BC get a win. Tonight they will be playing Clemson, a team they lost to this season, 89-78. They didn't have Quinton Post in that game. They were a little bit short-handed in that game considering BC had a virus going around in the locker room. So they weren't really fully ready to play a game. So obviously losing a guy like Quinton Post in that one, not having him, that's obviously a big loss. BC did get out-rebounded in that one by a ton. But as I said, without Quinton Post, that is a big loss. Earl Grant is 4-2 in the ACC tournament with the Eagles. He has had BC playing well in the ACC tournament. In his first year, they made a run, just winning that first game and getting some momentum. I've already mentioned that now a couple times, but that's huge. Winning that first game and getting some momentum is huge. Clemson is already a lock for March Madness. They had a great out-of-conference schedule run, beating Alabama. So they're going to be obviously a lock to make March Madness. So they might take BC a little bit lightly. And BC obviously needs to win the ACC tournament if they want to try to make March Madness, which that's obviously an uphill battle. But obviously, we've seen crazier things happen at the end of the day. Anybody can go on a run. Nobody saw San Diego State and Florida Atlantic making it to the Final Four last year. It's all about winning just a game and getting some momentum. So BC getting a big win yesterday was obviously huge. I think they have what it takes to beat Clemson. I do think they're going to win tonight's game. I do think if they do win tonight's game, though, that game against Virginia tomorrow would be a tough one. But the same thing applies here as it does with Clemson. Clemson's waiting for BC. They're already a lock for the tournament, so they might take BC lightly. And the same goes for Virginia. They'd be waiting 2 games now. BC would be coming into this game maybe a little tired playing 2 straight games. If they were to beat Clemson tonight and then go play Virginia, they might be a little tired playing 2 games in a row, but they also wouldn't be rusty. And maybe Virginia would be rusty considering they had 2 days off, and BC obviously is coming into this game with some momentum. Maybe they take BC a little bit lightly. With that being said, though, Virginia does need to probably win at least 1 game in the ACC tournament to try to make it into the tournament. Right now, they're being predicted in bracketology as a last 4 in or a first 4 out. So they probably need to win at least 1 game in the ACC tournament. So that does make me think no matter if they're playing Clemson or BC tomorrow, they're probably just going to go all in and be locked in, even though they really struggled against BC offensively in the first half when they played at Conti Forum, and then they got things going offensively in the second half and found a way to beat the Eagles. It wasn't a pretty game, though, by Virginia, but a lot of the time, the team that needs to win these types of games in order to make it into March Madness usually win those games because that's the difference of them making it or not. They can't lose a game like that in the quarterfinals, whether it's to BC or Clemson. So that's why I think it'll be a tough game against Virginia. We'll see what happens, though. BC does have to win tonight against Clemson anyways to even get to that point. But I do like BC's chances tonight against Clemson, as I've already said. Anyways, that'll wrap up this episode. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, I appreciate it. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next episode.